This is OwlUp, where learning happens in minutes, not hours. For a deeper journey, explore all our courses at owlup.co. Now, let's dive in. Welcome to Chapter 1 of Chess Fundamentals, Think 3 Moves Ahead, where we're starting with the absolute basics, getting familiar with your battlefield. Today we'll explore how the chessboard is set up and learn the simple coordinate system that'll help you navigate those 64 squares like a pro. Let's get into it. A single chessboard position can hold more possible futures than there are atoms in the Milky Way. You sit down, the pieces are ready, but here's the twist. The real game hasn't started yet, because you don't truly see the board. Let's explore what you're missing. 64 squares, but they don't all matter equally. Not to you, not yet. Before any tactics or secret openings, strong players train one very simple thing, where everything is, without thinking. That quiet skill, instant awareness of the board, is the bridge between random moves and real plans. To get there, you need more than just recognizing shapes of pieces. You need to feel which squares are vulnerable, which files invite rooks, which diagonals are like open highways for bishops. That kind of awareness turns a cluttered position into something you can actually navigate and predict. We'll zoom in on how masters mentally organize the board, key zones, typical weak spots, and how the same patterns appear in totally different positions. By the end, you'll see why just looking around on every move is wasted time, and how to replace it with a sharper, repeatable way of reading the board. Strong players don't just see a position, they see coordinates. That tiny label, like E4 or C6, turns a fuzzy impression into something you can store, compare, and analyze. It's the difference between "my knight is somewhere in the center" and "my knight on D4 hits F5 and E6. Once every square has a precise name in your mind, patterns stop being vague shapes and start becoming trackable events. Open files, pressure points, and outposts all become easier to talk about, to yourself, your coach, or a computer, because you're speaking the board's native language. Strong players rarely think, "Let me look at the whole board now." Instead, their attention snaps to specific coordinates that matter for the next few moves, almost like the important squares are quietly glowing. You can train that glow. Start with this. There are 3 kinds of squares you should care about most in any position. Squares your pieces stand on, squares they attack, and squares they could reach if a single obstacle disappeared. Those could-reach squares are where a lot of hidden tactics live, because one exchange or pawn push can suddenly make them real. To make that practical, anchor everything to coordinates. "My knight is active" becomes "my knight on F5 hits G7, H6, D6, D4, E3, G3, H4. Now notice, those target squares don't exist in isolation. Some are guarded by enemy pawns, some are backed by your pieces, some are completely loose. That mix, attacked versus defended squares around a piece's reach, often tells you whether you're attacking, defending, or bluffing. Here's a concrete habit grandmasters use. When they look at a piece, they don't stop at "what does it attack?" They immediately add, "and what defends those attacked squares?" For instance, a bishop on B1 eyeing H7 is useless trivia, until you've checked which coordinates between C2, D3, E4, F5, G6 are blocked or under fire. The moment one of those clears or becomes weak, the entire diagonal's character changes. Think in layers of coordinates. First layer, where pieces currently sit. Second, all the squares they touch. Third, all the squares that would open up after the most forcing moves, checks, captures, pawn breaks. You're not calculating yet, you're mapping potential battlefields. Finance offers a good parallel. A portfolio isn't just the assets you hold, but the price levels where things become dangerous or profitable. In chess, E4, D5, or F7 can be price levels where trades suddenly favor one side. Naming those squares makes it easier to remember. If my pawn ever reaches E5, their knight on F6 loses G4 and H5. Over time, you'll find your mind jumping less between random pieces and more between critical coordinates. The squares that, if they changed hands, would flip who's better. That's when the board stops feeling like 64 equal squares and starts feeling like a map of hotspots, each with a name you can follow, store, and revisit game after game. Stand over a real board and pick a random middle game from a book or online. Don't analyze the moves. Freeze the position. Now, instead of asking, who's better, ask a narrower question. Which 3 squares would most change this position if they switched owner? One for each phase. Now, in 2 moves? In 4 moves? For instance, you might choose e5, a knight outpost next move, d6, a pawn break in 2 moves, and h7, a future mating net entry. Speak them to yourself. e5 now, d6 soon, h7 later. Then, test the idea. Try to find any sequence, good or bad, that actually fights for those coordinates. If you can't find realistic moves, replace them. Your hotspots were fake. Your challenge this week. For every serious game you play, pause 3 times, opening, middle game, end game, and write down exactly 3 squares you'd fight for in that phase. After each game, compare. Did the real battle happen there or somewhere you ignored? A single square can change how engines, humans, and even cameras see a game. As boards go digital, systems need your same square-level clarity. AR overlays must know exactly where a pawn stands to project legal moves. Voice interfaces must map knight takes e5 to precise coordinates. Coaches already use this to tag training data by critical squares, not just moves, like labeling key price levels on a chart. The better you track squares now, the more naturally you'll plug into those future tools. As you sharpen this square-by-square view, the board starts feeling less like a puzzle and more like a control panel. Every shift flips some hidden switch. Openings become experiments in steering play toward your clusters of squares. Endgames, a slow tug-of-war over just a few critical tiles, like edging plates on a tectonic map and waiting for the break. Before next week, ask yourself, 1. If I replay my last 3 games, which piece did I move first most often, and was that actually the best use of that piece's strengths? 2. Looking at an empty board, where would I ideally want my knights, bishops, and queen by move 10, and what opening moves today could I practice to consistently reach those squares? 3. In my next online or over-the-board game, can I pause before each move and quickly ask, what squares is this piece currently controlling, and what new squares will it control after this move, and does that fit my plan for the center? This was OwlUp, your daily step forward. To keep learning with structured courses and more insights, go to owlup.co. Until tomorrow!